Um, it's really important because every time that you do anything for your business, there's a cost associated with it, right? So anyone who's out of territory um, needs to be kind of looked at through a couple of lenses, and I recommend setting up systems for this because people are going to come to you out of territory, whether it's one zip code or a town or a state away. That's going to happen. So what do you do? One, well, for me as a business owner, I'm looking at how do I monetize that. So there's a couple things that you can do. One, let's say it's a couple zip codes or a city away. You could find someone local to that area that does the work that you do at the quality that is acceptable to you to go and fulfill that job. So basically, you subcontract them out. Your company's still doing the job, still getting the money and then paying it out to a subcontractor. Two, you can actually sell that lead. You can take that lead, and again, everything in your business is value to it. So if they're looking to build a swimming pool for 80 grand, is it unreasonable for you to sell that intro for $150 or $100? Probably not, which is nice because it's another form of revenue that would have been wasted in your company. Now, let's say that it's a couple states over and it's someone that you uh, really want to work with, but there's no subcontractor and you don't know anyone in the area that can take it, but you're still interested. At that point, you have to decide if it's worth your time to go out there and bring out a crew to do. Now, if it's a couple zip codes away, maybe it is, but if it's a different state or county away, maybe not. So at that point, you have to figure out a way to, unfortunately, and again, systems help with this, let them go. Refer them to someone else, or if you know them, or say we're not a great fit. It's okay to, at that point, if it's more trouble than it's worth, to just let that lead go. Absolutely. So let's start with MRR. One of the best things about general landscaping, mowing, blowing, is that there's reoccurring services built into it. Most people have between 26 and 40 cuts, depending where you are in the U.S. A year, right? Some people have year-long cuts, but majority of people, especially on the reoccurring side, it tends to be these smaller, every week or every 2 week projects. Now, the nice thing about artificial turf, and that we've seen a lot of our clients actually start implementing, is turf maintenance. Now, you might be saying, well, turf has the promise of no more mowing, no more watering. That's true, but you still have to maintain certain things. For instance, if you have an electric car, yeah, you might have solar panels on the roof, but eventually you're going to need new tires for that car. So yeah, you don't need to put gas in the Tesla, in this case for an electric car. You still got to replace the tires because when you use tires, it's a weird thing of it deteriorating over time. So turf maintenance is a great MRR based product to sell on top of your turf installation or one of these projects. So one way to do that, in my recommendation, is to sell a year maintaining package, a maintenance package for a year. And I'll tell you exactly why. And I'll break down exactly what numbers that I've seen being used. So with turf, you still don't have to maintain it every week or every month, but I recommend setting a quarterly goal, right? So once a quarter to come out and power wash, check the infill, the seams, make sure that the turf is actually behaving as it should, right? There's no pockets of like error or, you need to replace something, they can actually do that. So your time is valuable and obviously they want a great product, so you can actually charge for this. So some basic numbers to use is you're going to do 4 sessions on this package for a retail value of $1,000. So at the end of the, let's say, installation, you can say, hey, we recommend that especially if you have dogs or whatnot, you maintain that. You power wash it, make sure that the yard doesn't smell. There's special chemicals that you need to replace it with every couple months, depending on the size of dog. Again, this is general knowledge, but we recommend a maintenance package. It's $1,000 a year, which comes down to $250 a visit. But for any new clients, we're actually offering that and reduce it by at least $50, so $200. So instead of a $1,000 package, now you have an $800, so they feel that there's value in it. And not everyone is going to be great for this, right? So especially if you don't have dogs, or it's a little area, this might not be worth it for them. But if they're actively using it, this could be a great product to upsell. And even if they say no in the moment, you can still follow up and make sure that you're valuable to them. The nice thing is you can also do this to new customers. So this can be an added service that we'll talk about later on how to get referrals. This is a great way to actually continue a conversation with either a person who's current turf that might need it replaced, or just ways to increase MRR for you. So that's one of the packages that most installation-based companies aren't currently doing, and the profit margins on it is great. Plus, it's a recurring service, which is great if you eventually want to sell your business or just want to be able to project how much you're going to make in the next 3 months, 6 months, a year. Why you should always be hiring is because there are always going to be parts of your business that you want to improve on. So we're mentioning a lot of jobs that might be in the field, right? Sales, irrigation techs, maybe someone to actually install turf, but also there's back office things as well. So operations, the chief of staff, HR, finance, accounting. Like there's so many different departments that make up a business. Now there's three big buckets we like to categorize people in. There's the marketing, there's sales, and there's operations. Now there are a lot of subsections between those, but you want to look at your business and see where's the bottleneck, right? Is it I can take on a lot more work because I have a lot of great employees, but we're sending out proposals maybe 3 days a week, 2 weeks later, and therefore we're not making as many sales because they might go with competition. That might be a estimator that you need to hire. That might be something on the finance side. Every business has bottlenecks, right? One great example is I used to be the bottleneck and still somewhat am in the acquisition, the sales side. So we brought on an amazing team member that will actually do a lot of filtering for me, respond to emails to prospects, call prospects, book them in so that I can have all my time dedicated to the sales aspect. Now, this individual is geared towards business development, which is amazing. But at a certain point, there was too much volume where I couldn't handle it. I couldn't qualify, do the sales process, close, and that really affected our bottom line. So bringing in that person helped us. Now that's a business development person. Maybe that's an office manager for you. Maybe it's a receptionist that can help qualify both people and send out proposals. Like I said, you got to figure out where the bottleneck is in your organization and your business to find the right talent for that. Yeah, it's more so they'll come in. Usually, yeah, we're gonna take referrals out because referrals are just a whole different mechanism. They'll come in and they'll have a rough idea of what they're looking for. So usually, and good marketing will anchor that in something specific. If it's porcelain, turf, retaining wall, whatever that is, they'll come in with that. Now, depending on the market's sophistication, you might have to educate them about more logistics behind it, like cost, timeline. Like if you want artificial turf done, it takes more than a day because you got to usually level and take out sod and put it in there, and there's just a lot more that goes into it. So there's some education that usually happens there. Throughout that, you want to also bring up a lot of social proof. So if you do more social proof, if you show past jobs, whether that's on social or on your Google My Business, whatever that is, if you show that will help in the conversation as well. But usually there's a stark drop off between people who come in who want an estimate. Usually there's qualification on calls that happen. It's really good to filter out people that you're just not a good fit for, right? Projects that you can't excel at. If they want, the cheapest turf ever, which is usually a recycled turf, and you don't want to do that because you know that there's problems with that long term, then you should maybe not work with that individual. Once the estimate's done, proposal to sale, which usually is a deposit of some sort. Some states you can't do anything more than 10%. Some is 50%. Maybe it's painful because they go financing, whatever that is. Get the initial deposit, and definitely during the whole sales process, you want to be able to educate them on timelines and whatnot. So, I mean, there's so much that goes into it, and every single customer and lead is a little different. But that's more so probably what you're going to focus on. They're going to have objections on price or shopping around or a million different things that they are looking for that you sometimes don't solve, and that's okay. Let's say that you are a landscaper and you install artificial turf. and you do some hardscaping work on the side as well, and the ground freezes to that point, you might want to focus more of your attention on the hardscaping, backyard fireplaces, things that are really geared to fall and winter, when people have a lot of parties outside. Hopefully it's not too snowy. Another thing is lights, outdoor lighting, both on the house and the backyard, as great add-ons. But let's say you do more of the mow and blow type of operation, right? Winter mulching, still aeration, start designing. A lot of people want a yard that's perfect in January, but or January in the spring, but they forget that there's a lot of planning involved and designs and architects being brought in. So you want to make sure you start planning ahead of time, so that if you want your project done March 1st, that you start construction, in mid-January. So that's something to start thinking about. This is a really good time to plan for those bigger projects, as well as add in other services that might not be impacted so much by weather. What does this mean to you? How can you make more money? Now that we understand the acquisition cost, we can figure out what's the best way to get in front of more customers so that we can make more profit, knowing that we have our LTV, right? There's multiple routes to go. My recommendation is to find additional problems that each one of your customers have, and then help to solve that problem. That's why additional services like winter mulching, aeration, cutting those dead trees, snow removal is so much easier to add, because the labor more or less stays the same that you have. The equipment might change, right? But the customer cost is zero. Now, let's say that you're maxed out, you can't make more money from your customers. What do? Run a referral campaign. And now that we know our numbers, we know that we can acquire a customer for about 130 bucks in this example. We can offer maybe $100, $130 gift card for any referral that someone shares with us that closes into a customer. Because based on this, that would be 10% of our contract value, our lifetime value, with that customer, assuming the numbers stay more or less the same.
To setting up successful ad campaigns for landscapers specifically. And I mean, this much of this can be taken and applied to other niches. I'm just going to be specific to landscapers because that's who we help. But for landscapers specifically, there's a few things you just really need to know high level on the ad side before you really jump in. One is definitely what area you're servicing and what area you want the ads to be focused in. It's really important that you have a large enough sample size to be able to effectively run ads. So if I'm honest, if you are in a very, very small town and you just service maybe a really small region, let's say less than 50,000 people, traditional advertising, it might still work for you, just expect it to be really expensive. And just expect lower volume. But it could very well still work. You just are probably going to have to be paying a couple $100 per lead. However, if you're in a big metropolitan area, that expands the effectiveness of your ads significantly. So I'm based in Phoenix. I'll just use Phoenix as the example. If you can service the whole Phoenix metro, you just have millions of people that you can put your ad in front of. Versus if you're in a really small, I'll also use an Arizona town example just because those are the only ones I can reference, the only ones I know. If you're in a really small area, let's say Globe, Arizona, which is really far away, very small town. It's less than 50,000 people, I think. So that particular region is just going to be really small. You're not going to have
1,162.
Yeah, I know it's pretty small, all things considered, but just keep those things in mind. Sample size is really, really important. When you think about ads, you're thinking just data. That's the only thing you care about, right? And also keep in mind, your first ads are probably going to suck. Your second ads are probably going to suck. Your third ads are probably going to suck. It's a process of getting incrementally better. So keep that in mind as well.
Scripts out there. There's the closer framework. There is a closer framework is a lot more for the sales side of it, but you want to clarify the problem. Closer is a really well-known acronym for it. But my basis is I'm trying to understand, one, is this person still interested in the service that they came in for? Or has that changed, for instance? Maybe you came in for artificial turf, but you want turf, pavers, and lighting now. Like, I want to understand, what problem are we solving for, right? If they just want a backyard transformation, or they just bought a house and want to make it their dream home, whatever that is, I'm trying to clarify exactly the point on like why we're having this conversation. Because candidly, if they're like, oh, I'm just kind of like shopping around, or like I just want to learn more, I'm going to take that into a lot smaller of a conversation because I don't want to waste their time or my time. And depending if they're a referral, I want to establish the relationship with that person. So let's say it was their neighbor that referred them to us. I want to bring up that neighbor, build trust, right? In both of these conversations, I'm building trust, but I want to build trust with them and figure out, what did you like about the person's job and what did you not like? So I can really quickly figure out, again, if they're like, oh, I just want to make it look like John's house. Well, John paid us $25,000 to do this. It's awesome. But like, what's the most important things that he did? Because I will use that for my notes later on. So once I understand like why we're having this conversation, then I move into the qualification-based questions. I want to figure out, do you have a high-level timeline when you want to get this done? How urgent is it? Do you have other bids out? What are those bids? And then I want to figure out like how kind of like how serious are you? Because like some people are just price shopping. That's totally fine, right? If you have Google Maps, you can pull up their backyard. For turf, for instance, you can quickly imagine it. Or if they send you pictures, you can kind of give a high level thing saying, hey, it's going to cost between $0 and $25,000. That's kind of what like I'm hearing. And people always laugh at the zero because that means we're not going to work together on this. So if someone's price shopping, usually I want to go that route and kind of give them. I don't want to go out there and waste time with someone that they were never going to spend that amount of money. I want to figure out exactly where their price point and their budget lies with this, and see if I'm even comparable to what they're thinking.
Yeah, for sure. So seasonal marketing would really be, and I'll give some, I guess, specific examples that will probably help explain like what it is. So, for example, when you see things like Christmas sales, that's like a, the Christmas season, you want to maybe do marketing around particular events that are happening. And the reasons that it, matters is partially that like it adds timeliness to your offers, to your marketing. It also helps basically in some of the consumeristic ways that like our society works, we are able to kind of capitalize on that in some ways and be like, you might want to get something for Halloween or Christmas or Thanksgiving, or maybe you want to get some work done because you're planning on having a bunch of people over to your house. And a lot of the things that we're talking about here in regards to seasonal marketing are specific to landscapers. But essentially, seasonal marketing on like a really simplistic view is changing out your messaging and maybe your offers for different seasons of the year, and ideally ones that fit well with your business cycle. Yeah, one other kind of related point to that is you may want to base things around what you can do. So if you're a landscaper, there might be some services you can only really offer before the ground freezes. So maybe you want to do different promotions for, as we get here later in the season and it starts to get colder, maybe you can't lay down sod, maybe you can't lay down certain things, maybe you can't install irrigation systems, anything like that might just be difficult. You can use seasonal marketing to push people towards different services that you can offer. So it can be a way that you can help keep your crews busy, keep them working, and yeah, just really making sure that you can have all those individual pieces and not break. Because if you have a bunch of people being like, oh, I want trees planted, I want this, I want that, and they're not services you can actually offer, and a lot of those you might have to be like, yeah, I can put you down for March. But what's your crew supposed to do between October and March, right? Seasonal marketing is a good way you can push those seasonal offers and products and services that might be more specific and better suited to those weather conditions.